Good YouTube's Dens here. Today I'm going to be talking about arguably the greatest game of all time. Recently I just had a stream where I done a subathon on Twitch. I ended up playing Death Stranding 1 and 2 for over 54 hours the subathon went to, so I want to first off say thank you to everyone who popped out the subathon, showed support and was in chat. I also want to say thank you to my moderator, special shout out to Josh, special shout out to Spear who were in chat for a long time. But I'm going to be talking about Death Stranding and why I think it's one of the greatest games ever. When I first started playing this game, I kind of had the same, in a sense, the same expectations everyone, where it's just a walking simulator. I think every single clip that we've seen of Death Stranding has just been walking with a big bag, a lot of cargo, and nothing else. It's just a boring game where it's just a bunch of walking. I played the game for 54 hours. And I was incredibly wrong, like very, very, very wrong. Death Stranding is arguably the greatest game I've ever played in my life. And this is coming from somebody who's played the likes of Red Dead Redemption, Last of Us Part 1, Last of Us Part 2, GTA 5, the list goes on. I've played a lot of great games. I mean, it's just the visuals in this game. I mean, take this clip for example. I was literally just on my bike after finishing taking out an outpost and a sandstorm just started coming in. Just a sandstorm out of nowhere. When have you seen in video games we have crazy weather patterns like this? I was comparing it to Red Dead Redemption's weather pattern, but I mean, it's at this point, in a sense, it was embarrassing. I did do a side-by-side comparison, and Death Stranding was massively better than Red Dead Redemption in terms of the weather patterns. I mean, look how intense that sandstorm looks. I was even questioning if it was moving towards me, and it was moving towards me. You can even go into it. It does affect you when you walk into the sandstorm. It does feel very, very heavy. Your character's movement is affected once you go in there, depending if you walk with the grain or if you walk against the grain. But just a small detail that is, but it genuinely is one of the greatest games I've ever played in my life. Arguably the greatest game I've ever played, and that's a massive claim. I've played brilliant games. I've played Skyrim, I've played Fallout New Vegas, GTA 4, GTA 5, Red Dead 2. I've played crazy, crazy games. In this clip here during the stream, I was actually talking to one of my moderators and I was asking, what is better? Is the prologue section of Red Dead 2 better than the current weather pattern that we have showing on the screen in Death Stranding? And I mean, look how intense that looks. You can't see anything. You can't even see any rocks. I can only see a rock after I stood on it already. But yeah, I'm just going to talk about Death Stranding, why I think it's one of the greatest games ever, and just the thing that, like, there's a vision that the game, in a sense, there's a perspective where people think that it's a walking simulator, and I'm here to debunk all that because it's just the furthest thing from a walking simulator, like very, very far. I think those that call it a walking simulator either haven't played it and are just judging from the clips, or dropped the game after an hour or two. And I really don't understand how you can play this game and not call it a masterpiece. It genuinely is one of the greatest games of all time. In terms of story of Death Stranding, I don't want to spoil too much just in case you do get into it, but basically the Death Stranding is an apocalypse. Think of it like Fallout. An apocalypse has happened and you just have to rebuild the world. That's the easiest way that I can explain the story of Death Stranding to you. It is a very, very complex game. There are plot twists in the game. The story itself is very, very confusing. You do have to pay attention to a lot of the things that are going on, but it genuinely is one of the greatest stories ever. I've always said this, and I said it many times during the stream, they need to make this into a movie or a TV series. It's very, very rich in detail. The characters are absolutely amazing. They've used some very famous characters. Shout out to the likes of Mads Mikkelsen. Shout out to the likes of Norman Reedus. They've used an amazing cast of characters and they all performed very well, and even visually, just looking at them, their emotion reactions, it genuinely does feel very, very realistic. So the main character, Sam Porter, who is Norman Reedus, I think everybody knows because he was a huge promo point in the game, similar to Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk 2077. But yeah, you play as Sam Porter, who's Norman Reedus, and you are a courier. Your job is to, like I said before, an apocalypse has happened and you're just trying to rebuild America. So your job as a courier is to just deliver materials, deliver cargo to specific settlements and connect them all up together so they can all work together, use the same resources, and they can improve the world. It's an apocalypse. You're a courier. That's literally your job. But it gets more complex. What caused this apocalypse? What are the enemies that you're seeing? Why are you seeing those enemies? Why are the enemies doing what they're doing? Certain events happen, then you start to study, research, question why these certain events are happening. Are we doing the right thing? Are we going about this the right way in terms of fixing the world? The main gameplay loop of Death Stranding is you're a courier and you need to deliver to certain settlements so they can all help each other. You need to connect certain settlements also so they can help each other use the same resources, the same materials, so they can continue to build the world. That's the main gameplay loop of Death Stranding. Obviously, that sounds very, very simple, but it's not. I mean, judging from this clip that you're watching, you can get some form of apocalyptic feel off it, but you're also wondering why the hell is there a big ass whale just flying around in what looks like tar, water, goo, who knows what that is. Play the game and you'll find out yourself. But yeah, the story is very, very twisted, very, very complex. It does get confusing, a lot of great plot twists into it, a lot of thinking that goes onto it yourself as a player. It takes many, many different turns, and it's just a very, very complex and weird and twisted storyline. The characters are absolutely amazing. It introduces some great characters. There are villains in the game, of course. Villains who question their morals. You start to question why they behave the way that they do. It genuinely just feels like a movie. I've always said if this game was to be made to a movie, it would be one of the greatest movies ever. So one thing about Death Stranding that massively caught me were the visuals. This is visually one of the best looking games I've ever played. Death Stranding 1 and Death Stranding 2 looks even better. I mentioned the weather patterns earlier. I mean, I just gave you two great examples of weather patterns, the sandstorm and the snowy biome. You could see just exactly how the visuals of that looked. The characters' faces, the details, the emotion, the reaction to certain things, even something small such as the tears. Look at the clip on the screen right now and like, come on. I mean, the gameplay itself is showing you what I mean. The visuals of Death Stranding are absolutely amazing. Whether you're looking at the sky, the details in the weapon, the vehicles, the characters' faces, small details like your main character's hair getting wet and how it soaks into the skin. It's extremely, extremely realistic and it looks crazy. It does look like a movie. The cutscenes, the gameplay looks like the cutscenes. It looks absolutely brilliant. The lighting as well, absolutely beautiful it is. Another thing that caught me off guard that I didn't know was rich in this game and absolutely 10 out of 10 experience were boss fights. Boss fights in Death Stranding are, you don't get a lot of boss fights, but when you do get a boss fight, it is a holy shit moment. For example, the clip that you're watching now is a boss fight. It is a very early boss fight in the second game, so of course there are way more complex bosses than this in the first and the second game. So I definitely do recommend giving them a try. The second game does have an option where you can skip boss fights if they're too hard, but don't do that. Just keep trying till you get it. It gets fun. It gets really, really fun. These are bosses that, in a sense, I would closely compare to Elden Ring. Elden Ring bosses are, of course, better, but I mean, they're almost as fun as fighting the bosses in Elden Ring, especially on the hardest difficulty. But the boss fights are amazing in Death Stranding 1 and 2. You do have a lot of complex bosses. They are very, very different. I mean, the mechanics are very, very different. Encounters are very, very different. You don't get two bosses that are the same. There are many, many moments where you feel like you have lost the fight. Even mid-fight, there are many moments where that's happened to me mid-stream. The arenas, the boss fight arenas are not in your favor at all. It's very, very hard to maneuver around them. That's one thing I'll say. There are a couple of arenas where it is quite easy to maneuver around, but one thing about this with boss fights is it messes up the arena for you. A lot of the arenas that you fight in are not in your favor. That's one thing that a lot of games don't have. A lot of games have a normal arena where you can just navigate around and your main focus is the boss. In this game, you're fighting the environment mainly and the boss. So there's that. And then another thing that I want to talk about is a massive, massive point that actually you use a lot in the game, but it's not really mentioned, is stealth. Similar to The Last of Us Part 1, The Last of Us Part 2, stealth is actually massive in Death Stranding. There are certain enemy types that you will be forced to play stealth against. Even the human enemy types, you can choose to play stealth against them. Stealth, I will admit, in the second game is way, way better than the stealth in the first game. The stealth in the first game is decent. You will have to use it a lot. Like, the game does force you to use it, similar like The Last of Us. There are many different enemy types, so certain enemy types you are literally forced to use stealth. If you don't use stealth, you can still play, but it just makes it incredibly hard for you. There are certain enemy types where you don't have to use stealth. You can just choose if you want to go loud or use stealth, but stealth is a massive, massive point in Death Stranding. So if you are getting into the game, and if you are good at sneaking, if you've learned from the likes of The Last of Us, the likes of Skyrim, Fallout, just know that you will be sneaking around a lot in that game, so prepare for it. One thing I can say about this game is you will spend a massive amount of time in your inventory management, just like a lot of different RPGs. Reason being is because a massive part of Death Stranding is weight distribution. Like I said before, you are a courier and you're carrying around materials and cargo to different settlements. Now, the scale, the magnitude of different pieces of cargo that you carry, it does depend a lot, and you will have to just manage your inventory, whether you want to use a vehicle, whether you want to use extra equipment to help you carry extra cargo, whether you want to equip an exoskeleton that will make it easier for you to navigate. There are many different tools and gadgets that you can take to make deliveries easier for you, but weight distribution is a massive thing. There is a weight limit capacity that your character can take. There's only so much you can carry. There are gadgets and tools in the game that allow you to carry more, make your character stronger, but weight distribution is a massive thing in this game. You can't overhaul your character with way too much cargo. He'll just simply tip and fall over. And that's also another big part of the game. You have to keep your character up. There are mechanics in this game, there are functions in this game, buttons you have to press to constantly keep your character up when you're carrying a large amount of cargo. That's why I mentioned that weight distribution is very important. Offload some cargo, leave some cargo in a certain outpost and come back for it later. Drop your backpack while you're taking out an outpost potentially. Load all the cargo onto a vehicle, but you have to check and see, can this vehicle get me from point A to point B and not be blocked by mountains or certain enemy types? Does the vehicle even have the fuel, the energy to go all the way to the end? There are many, many things that you have to take into consideration when you're playing as a courier in this game. It's not just a simple walk from A to B or drive from A to B. You're in a battle against the terrain. You're in a battle against the journey. There are many, many things that you have to question before you set off on your journey. There's an enemy type here. Will I be able to carry this piece of cargo without it getting destroyed and messing up the whole mission? Do I have enough battery in my vehicle to make it all the way here? Will I make it all the way without falling over? Am I carrying enough ladders just in case I do need some? Will the weather affect me? Because in Death Stranding, the rain is actually in a sense acidic, and it hurts you, and it also damages the cargo that you have. So you also have to take that into consideration. If it's raining and you're setting out, that's bad news. So you will obviously have to think of things that can help you with that, to improve that. There are many, many different things you have to think about before you set out to help a settlement and deliver cargo to them. Keeping yourself alive, keeping the cargo okay, making sure you get there in time, and ultimately making sure that you actually do get there, whether your cargo is destroyed or whether it's not. Of course, if you deliver cargo in perfect condition, that's ideally what you'd want, ideally what the settlement would want. But there are instances where you just get super messed up that you get to there, you deliver the cargo, but it's all broke up and they're not too happy with it, the people who receive it, the settlement, but I mean, they still did receive it and they will let you know about that. So that's a massive part of the game also. The navigation, the journey, the traversal, you do have to plan accordingly. Am I bringing the correct weapons, the correct gear? All of that has to be taken into consideration. So gear management is very, very important. Weight distribution is extremely important. Like I mentioned, you will be spending a lot of time in your inventory because you are a courier. Another thing is progression. Now, the progression system in Death Stranding is one thing that I love, and it does play a massive part into the gameplay loop. You will be spending a lot of time helping out different settlements. Every settlement that you help out benefits you. The game will take you on a linear path in a sense through a main story. Now, it's very, very easy to get lost in side quests, side deliveries, very, very easy. But the side quests benefit you massively in playing the game. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're playing the main story and you receive an AR, assault rifle. Then, if you just continue playing the main story, you just play with your stock AR. Whereas if you go off and do side quests for that same settlement, they can give you, say, a scope for your AR. They can give you a suppressor for your AR, which will make liberating outposts way, way easier. Let's say you receive an exoskeleton that makes you run fast. You can then continue to level them up, and they could potentially give you an exoskeleton that makes it easier for you to traverse in the snow. An exoskeleton that improves your weight capacity, your carry capacity, allowing you to carry a lot more. Even in that clip that I'm showing right here, you can see that I have a carrier behind me, which is also lugging some cargo. I had to do some extra work to unlock that carrier, which allowed me to carry more stuff with me on my journeys. And then there is a thing of like, there are vehicles in the game, but certain journeys you do have to question, can I even get my vehicle over this mountain? Do I have to bring a carrier with me instead of my vehicle? And then it's a thing of like, if I meet a certain enemy type, will I even be able to get past them with the equipment that I'm carrying? It's a lot of thinking that you have to do in the game, but purely the main story itself, like forget everything I just mentioned. If I'm talking just the main story itself, it's a 10 out of 10 story, easily a 10 out of 10 story. Very, very complex story. It's different. I will say it's arguably the most unique game that you will ever play, and that's why it's a masterpiece. It's very, very hard to play this game and to not rate it a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. Play it all the way through. It took me 45 hours to beat the main story. I did do some side quests. I did quite a lot of side quests, to be fair. I did level up a lot of the vendors, the settlements, to 5 stars. The game does work on a star system. You do jobs for them, deliver cargo for them, and you get stars. You get progress towards stars. I did do a lot of work during my subathon stream where I was playing the game, and I leveled up a lot of them. It took me 45 hours overall to beat it. I'm still currently playing Death Stranding 2. I'm about 20 hours in. I'm still quite early into the game. I'm currently loving it. I am streaming it over on Twitch. If you guys do want to watch it, I'll put my Twitch links down below in the description, and you guys can follow that. But it does take you quite a while to beat the game. It's kind of in an episode format. There are certain episodes, and that will let you know how you're doing, where you are in the game. I won't tell you how many episodes there are. You'll just have to play it yourself and find out. I know when you see posters of the game, when you see clips of the game, there's many, many different questions. What I would say in that sense is experience the game for yourself and don't watch videos. Just experience it for yourself. In terms of the end game for Death Stranding, the end game is the loop that I mentioned, the progression that I mentioned. You do want to progress these vendors, and they will give you tools and gadgets. You can build in this game also. You can build safe houses. You can build roads, similar to Minecraft. You can just build roads. You can use those roads because a lot of the game is just mountainous areas or jagged roads, or jagged terrains. You can create roads that just make the journey smoother for you, and other players can also see those roads. They can also contribute to building those roads by depositing materials, and then you can use it just to make your journeys much more smoother. Or if you do need to get away from a certain enemy type, those roads that you built will have helped you, and the community can also come together and assist you in building those roads and improving it. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, the verdict of the game, I rate this game a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. I'm talking about the first Death Stranding. I'm rating it a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. It genuinely just is one of the best games I've ever played. What I was seeing online compared to what I experienced when I played, night and day, 2 different stories. And in a sense, I'm a bit disappointed because how can you speak about the game the way you did? How can you say Death Stranding is purely a walking simulator? I just don't understand. But like I said before, it must be people who've only put a couple of hours into it, or people who haven't played it at all and are just going off the popular online opinion. It genuinely is one of the best games I've ever played. I mean, and I'll happily play it again. And it's just taken over. It's fully taken over for myself. I love the gameplay loop. I'm really enjoying it massively. And there's just more to it than the walking. I mean, the story is absolutely amazing. The boss fights. This screen that you're looking at is not a boss fight. That's not even a boss fight. That's just a regular fight. I managed to mess up. I got myself in this situation. I won't explain how I messed up. I mean, you might have seen it just before this fight started. I don't want to spoil too much, but this is not a boss fight. So imagine what the boss fights are like in this game. 2 clips in this did have boss fights. This isn't one of them. The combat in the game is absolutely brilliant. Death Stranding 2 is way more focused on combat in terms of the weapon, in terms of the gadgets. They do focus a lot more on providing you gadgets that assist you in combat. The first game does do that, but the second game is way more complex and way more creative, and in terms of customization options, it is better. I mean, that's what you expect from a sequel, especially considering we waited 6 years for Death Stranding 2 to come out. Death Stranding 1 is massive though. It's a massive open world game. I highly do recommend diving into it if you do like complex post-apocalyptic stories with weird enemies, with characters questioning their morals, heavy emotional depth, a lot of character development, brilliant colorful cast of characters. You do have some really famous characters. Like I mentioned, Mads Mikkelsen is in this. Norman Reedus is the protagonist. I mean, if you're a big Walking Dead fan, you surely just do have to play this game. You get to play as Norman Reedus. That in itself should be a huge point as to why you don't want to get this if you are a huge Walking Dead fan. But yeah, I mean, I want to say thank you to everyone who pulled up to the subathon. It was absolutely brilliant. I was pushed to 54 hours. So thank you to everyone that was chilling, everyone that was there supporting me, watching me play the game. I did meet a lot of new people and it's cool. I expanded my Discord. But yeah, I mean, I made this video just to get people to understand that this game is not what you think it is. It's a different story.